Hi, this is Andy Hoffman at Miles Franklin, and this is the third installment of the Miles Franklin audio blog. It's October 4th, the markets have just closed, and as we get closer to the end game of currency collapse, the craziness just continues. I didn't think there was a term that I'd hate more than tapering, which we've been forced to listen to for the past year, and for that matter, for the past 3 years, if we go back to the exit strategy that they've been talking about since 2010. But it's government shutdown. And again, this isn't the first time they've argued about the government shutdown. Every time we get to these end of the fiscal years, this kind of thing happens. And right now, with our 10% congressional approval rating, an all-time low, Congress has deemed it wise to argue about Obamacare, which, hate it or not, and I certainly do, has already passed. But yet they're going to argue about this and ruin the credibility of the nation even further. And what's most amazing about this is that I'm not sure what government shutdown we're talking about. We were told about 800,000 furloughs and everything's going to be shut down, but according to Rand Paul, 85% of the government is still open. In fact, I was just reading an article by Michael Snyder listing all the things open, and I'm thinking, well, what the heck is closed? NASA? Who cares about NASA? We haven't had a space program in years. The fact is, everything is now deemed essential. I wrote a piece earlier this week called Dependency Nation saying that we can't shut the government down. It's become too big. Government, like fiat currency, is a Ponzi scheme that must grow bigger. And it consumes, or should I say subsumes, the rest of the private economy. So whether people are getting money from government jobs or entitlements, they can't get any smaller and they certainly can't shut down, which is why somehow the post office, which every day delivers me my spam, thank you very much, is now considered just as essential as the military. Well, anyway, somehow this debt ceiling debate, and I've talked about this ad infinitum, I wrote 2 pieces about it this week, and we've been talking about this forever. It just keeps going on and on. On October 17th, the government will exhaust all of the extraordinary measures that they've used to delay the breach of the ceiling. Extraordinary measures, as I wrote in the twin economic albatrosses and several other pieces, are simply lies. It's accounting shenanigans that allow them to steal from Peter to pay Paul. And I guarantee you the day, just like in August 2011 when they raised the debt ceiling, the day that they raise that ceiling, you're going to watch the debt go up by $300 billion in a single minute. So if anyone says that the deficits are lower, it's all because of lies, but what else is new? Anyway, the debt ceiling, you heard Jack Lew, our former Citibank Treasury Secretary, say that if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we will be feeling this for a generation. Well, we're going to feel the lasting impacts of all the debt we've built up for many generations. Yes, if they don't raise the debt ceiling, it'll start right now. But of course they're going to. And of course they'll bring the government back with a spending bill. And of course the Congress, the House Republicans will relent and we'll have Obamacare. And that will ruin the country. But hey, it was already passed by Congress. It's over. Anyway, so these 2 things, government shutdown and debt ceiling, are but noise in an ongoing cascade of the U.S. government and credibility. And it's more the reason why gold demand will continue to go up. And actually, if you read the piece that I just put out today, I'm not even sure if it's published yet, just showing the incredible numbers of how much Chinese demand has increased, Indian demand has increased despite the tariff increases, U.S. Mint Silver Eagle demand. It's really incredible to see how they've done this year, how kept the paper price down. And, the way they've done it is by naked shorting. There's no more supply left, and now the mining industry is falling apart. So, when will the game end? Don't know, but it's not going to be much longer, that I know. Certainly not in the scheme of a global economy that continues to deteriorate each week. And speaking of the economy plunging, how about the ISM non-manufacturing index? Now, remember, we are now told we are a consumer economy, whatever that means. I think it means we borrow and spend money because we don't make anything anymore. But anyway, the non-manufacturing numbers have always been better than manufacturing numbers because even the Wall Street pundits, even the CNBC cheerleaders know we have no manufacturing base anymore. So they continue to tout anything that has to do with service which doesn't produce anything, like real estate brokers or stockbrokers or waiters or bartenders. No offense to good waiters or bartenders, of course. But the fact is, if we're a service economy, you would think that the service number should go up. And of course, this was one of the biggest plunges we've ever seen in this number, back to levels from 2009, including the employment number. And oh no, we can't hear the unemployment numbers anymore, because that's the one thing the government did decide to shut down, the today's employment report, because it'll stink no matter what they report. Everyone will know it stinks because they lie about everything in it. And even the stuff they don't lie about is very transparent, like what kind of jobs are out there. But that's another story, another day. I see GM car sales plunged 11% in 1 month. We saw this week Walmart, the biggest employer in the nation and the biggest retailer in the world, cutting back purchasing because of piling up inventories. I don't know, that sounds to me like a pretty weak economy. How about you? I see Eli Lilly and Merck, two of the largest drug companies in the world, massive layoffs. Massive layoffs. Merck is cutting 20% of its entire global workforce. Remember IBM just cut a huge amount of people? Wall Street, how about this one? I thought Wall Street is doing so well. It's 20% of the S&P profits. Yet, according to an article I just read on Zero Hedge, the headhunters say this is the worst sentiment for hiring in the Wall Street business since the Titanic. And I don't know if that guy was around, but I think he has an idea of just how bad it was back then. So these earnings are not real earnings. I've told you time and time again what kind of earnings they make. It's just from writing up assets because FASB allows them to mark to fantasy whatever they want, and they have high-speed trading and they have inside information. Look, I told you, I was a Wall Street analyst for 10 years. I was a sell-side analyst at Solomon Smith Barney from 98 to 2005. The reason I left, partly because I couldn't take it anymore, was because my business was dying, the business of research, the business of capital raising. And I'm not talking about Facebook. I'm talking about the business of businesses growing and acquiring capital, IPOs. That business is dead. And that's why Wall Street continues to fire people left and right. And now that interest rates have bottomed, they're firing all these mortgage people that have been a source of jobs for the last couple of years because the Fed had interest rates down to nothing. So don't expect anything on the economic front, especially now that you have this debt ceiling and government shutdown thing going on, because I assure you there are some people they're out of work because of the shutdown. Which brings me to tapering. Now, we've been hit all year. Remember last year in 2012, and starting in February with the leap day violation, we were attacked because the Fed was going to cut back on monetary easing, yet they never did. And the same thing happened this year. Again, what a coincidence, in February, right when the seasonally weak period of the year starts, the Humphrey Hawkins. Bernanke goes on Capitol Hill. In fact, he never said anything about tapering, but the game of pretending that they were going to start it again in February. And we've had to listen all year about how gold is going down because they're going to be tapering. Well, here we are in October. They just announced 2 weeks ago no tapering, and what's happened since? The market has fallen 5%. The economic numbers are terrible. We have our debt ceiling and government shutdown things. You think they're going to announce tapering when the next Fed meeting comes up, which I believe is, in a week or two? Of course not. I still think, as I've said for some time, remember, I was one of the few people who said they wouldn't taper, and I still believe that we will see QE5 before we see tapering, which is to say we will never see tapering because, again, it's a Ponzi scheme. So don't expect anything healthy on the economic front anytime soon. And that goes for Europe as well, where this, as they say, this meme of economic recovery is complete bull. There's not a single thing that proves that, except the stock markets have gone up a bit. And, I think we've seen by now that stock markets no longer predict anything, especially when there's PPTs working everywhere to support them. And as for gold, what more can I say? I've never seen anything like it, and that goes for silver as well, of course. I really have never seen anything like this 2:15 a.m. algorithm, which it goes to work every day of every week, no matter what. We're at the point where, as I say, I just wrote a piece, we are going to have a third quarter earnings catastrophe in the mining business, which is going to make the second quarter look like nothing. There's going to be more layoffs. They may start writing off their reserves and their resources even. And people start to realize that this business is dead. It's dead. It's gone goodbye. I told you 2 years ago, actually 2.5 years ago, I sold my last mining share and became vigilant about this business was marked for death. That was the words that I used. So yeah, could it turn around if the prices turn around? Sure, somewhat, but for how long? Because this business will be marked for death no matter what happens. And once the prices do start rising for gold and silver, get ready for rounds of nationalizations, windfall profit taxes, and you name it, because they're coming. This business will never be allowed to thrive. And shame on, I mean, I've said it's for years, shame on the executives of these companies. Do they not realize they're in business for shareholders? They're not in business to mine gold. They're in business for shareholders. And if so be it, they can't mine gold, well, that's fine, because I guarantee you the price would go up if one or more of these idiots would ever shut off their mines. And believe me, I know. I was in the extraction industry. I worked for oil and gas. I know it's tough to restart things, but it's really tough to give away the tiny amount of gold you have and let the cartel destroy you. So, you want to be a mining company, that's fine. If you want to own one, that's speculation. But as for me, I'll just own the real stuff, because I know that the more that this industry is attacked, the better it's going to be for the real stuff going forward. Well, anyway, that's all I have for today. And I look forward to talking to you on our next audio blog soon.